Hello everybody and welcome on in. A new patch came out yesterday and there wasn't a lot of warning that we'd be getting a patch yesterday, but with it came a lot of balance changes for PvP. And I think these balance changes are actually something that the PvP community has really been asking for. So let's talk about them. The first one I want to talk about is the bow. Bow is going to have up to a 50% damage drop off at 40 plus meters. So this will start to drop off in damage at that 40 meter mark, and then you'll see up to a 50% maximum damage drop off the further and further you get from a target that you're shooting at. I think this is a really nice change, especially with the change to muskets, making it a lot more difficult to use as a very long-ranged weapon. Game modes like OPR feel a lot better when you aren't constantly getting sniped from across the map. So bows can still hit you at that distance, but the damage reduction is definitely something that I noticed, and I think in general, good for PvP, a healthy change. There are going to be some implications on PvE, things like invasions where bow is a good long-range weapon option is now going to be a pretty big damage cut. So I'm curious how things will play out throughout the entire game, but for the sake of PvP, making it so this game is not a long-range shooter, definitely the right direction. And last but not least, the bow hitbox also got a bit of a reduction in size, so there you go. Maybe you won't get sniped so hard by the bow anymore just because they have to aim a little bit better than they used to. Okay, so now let's talk about everybody's next favorite weapon, the Fire Staff. Very, very popular weapon in PvP since the rework, and there has been a bit of a nerf to Fire Staff. I did say this in my kind of breakdown of the Fire Staff initially when the patch first came out. I didn't think that the Fire Staff was really OP, but there were some problem passives like the Flare that I think could be very OP in certain situations, and that is exactly what Amazon has gone and done. They've nerfed the Flare passive. If you guys don't know what it does, it adds an AoE splash to your heavy attack, and the damage on that splash is now 110% weapon damage instead of the 140% weapon damage that heavy attacks used to be. I think this is a very good change because it gives you more incentive to actually land those heavies on the target, but you still get to take advantage of that AoE splash. And I think, honestly, they did nerf the damage of the heavy, but the really important part is that the heavy gets that burn attached to it. So net, this is a good change for Flare, but honestly, maybe Flare might get nerfed a little bit more just because of that AoE nature. And the Pillar of Fire passive also got a little bit of a nerf so that it gives less cooldown reduction than it used to. I think this is a good change. I did see a video of someone casting back-to-back Pillar of Fires on a training dummy, so yeah, maybe not the best thing to have that be possible. Either way, I do think that these are good changes for the Fire Staff. I do like that Amazon isn't just going the super heavy-handed nerf approach with this stuff too, which is good. And I think with bow we see that as well. There was no actual damage reduction if you're within that 40-meter range. Now, let's talk about Fortify. This is something that has changed a lot since they made Fortify scale off of your armor value. Light armor doesn't benefit a lot from Fortify, but medium and heavy will benefit a lot more from Fortify. There were some big changes for the Fortify. So first of all, medium and heavy armor just have base higher armor values this patch than they used to, with medium gaining a 2.5% armor increase and heavy gaining a 5% armor increase. On top of that, the Fortifies from a ton of different sources have been reworked to be higher value Fortifies. And I won't go through all of them, but Warhammer, Great Axe, Sword and Shield, those are the big ones that got those Fortify increases, so that is a huge change for those Brawler and heavier armor builds, because that increased Fortify with the increased armor makes the Fortify so much better on heavy armor than it used to be, while having very little impact on the light armor boys. And it wasn't just the weapon skill Fortifies that got a bit of a buff. Shirking Fortification is actually increased from 3.9 to 4.7% now, so again, that's almost another 5% additional Fortify for the heavy armor boys that will make them more durable and not have a huge impact on the light armor builds. So I do think this is a really good change. I like that they reworked how Fortify works, and they're going that approach to really benefit those people that are stacking armor and Fortifies. And the last weapon I need to talk about, Ice Gauntlet. Entomb got a bit of a nerf. It used to be 75% of your max health when you pop into the Entomb. I guess that was the value of the Entomb itself, and now it's been nerfed to 50%. And this should make it a pretty good change for Ice Gauntlet, I think, because it was very, very easy to reset with Entomb on the Ice Gauntlet. And, well, that is pretty much all of the big changes that I have to mention. I know it's not a ton of them, but I think that these changes have a pretty big impact on PvP because they are all kind of things things that PvP players have been asking for, and it seems like Amazon is delivering, at least with this balance patch, on some of the things that we want to see in PvP. Net, I think OPR was a lot of fun yesterday, but since the new seasons and the nerf to musket in general, I've been finding OPR to be a lot more enjoyable, so yeah, I like these changes. I like to see this from Amazon. I do like that they didn't just go with the heavy hammer approach. Let's see how things play out and how the meta shifts according to these changes. I'm curious how much the Fortify will impact heavy armor and whether we might see more of a heavy armor meta coming forward. I do think that heavy armor was feeling a lot better with the seasons patch as well too, so that's something to keep an eye out for. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. Of course, if you have any comments on the balance changes, please let me know down in the comments down below. If you guys like this build and you want to see a written guide to it, you can find it on my website, pvpnewworld.com. I've also got a video guide in the link down below for you guys too. If you want to catch me live on Twitch, there is a link to my Twitch down below as well. And of course, if you have an awesome fight that you want to see in the New World Top 5 fights, you can send that to Kristofer at pvpnewworld.com. This show is sponsored by ExpressVPN. You can get a deal with your first purchase with the link down below. A big thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring. And of course, a huge thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon for supporting the show. Thank you guys so much. Thank you everybody just for tuning in and watching. There is a little bit more to this clip, and yeah, I get saved pretty hard at the end. Either way, have a good night, everybody. Thank you again so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys next time. Look forward to another video tomorrow morning, and have a good one, guys.